call to order the May 5th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Morgan? Here. Mrs. Frank?
Here.
Mrs. Snyder?
Here.
Mrs. Olander?
Here.
Mrs. Wolf?
Here. All right, can I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please?
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan? Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Olander?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes. All right, and on to committee and representative reports.
All right, we're gonna start with Mr. Gifford.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to make a report tonight on facilities and an HR update. In regard to facilities, I just wanted to catch the board up on a few projects one project that's been completed already that was on our list for this year, which is the rooftop unit at Kensington that feeds the gymnasium. So that was replaced over spring break, and all the connections have been made, all the communications are in place, and so that's working at 100% right now. In upcoming, of course, commencing on, it's almost like the kids and the teachers walk out the front doors and the construction workers walk kind of in the back. So commencing on June 8th, we'll have those mini split units, 3 of those that'll be installed at Goldwood this summer, and the 5 univents at the middle school. Also, what'll be going on at the high school is 3 roofs will be replaced, 16, 18, I think that's an 18, yep, 16, 18, and 34 at the high school. That's really at the north side of the building, along, I guess what used to be like the English wing, but now it's more business and that right there, and then part of the main offices. And those will be replaced this summer, and the gym floors will also be refurbished at all the buildings, and that also commences on June 8th. Any questions on facilities? Yes?
Yes, could you please tell us the cost of each of these, 1, 2, 3, 4? And I presume they are coming from the PI fund, but if you could just confirm that for us.
Greg will have to confirm that. The 5 univents at the middle school, that's at a cost of $131,162. The Kensington main gymnasium that was just replaced, that was $72,766. The 3 units at Goldwood, that's for a total of $74,554. And those are those HVAC items. The roof units, that's roof 16 is $18,600. The roof 18 is $43,400, and roof 34 is $150,800.
And then gym floors?
Gym floors, I'll have to get back to you on that. I just include that, that's something that we do every other year at the buildings, so I can get that cost for you.
They're not tearing up anything, just.
No,
Like
just.
varnish coat.
Correct, you got it. But I'll get that cost.
And these other projects, are these competitively bid, or how are they?
Yes, they're all done through consortium purchasing, and that's how we do all of our large projects like that.
Okay, so consortium purchasing,
Mhm.
that's where you get competitive bidding, and,
Correct.
that's all out of PI, correct, Greg?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
So, again, good money management, that we have a permanent improvement fund that we appropriately fund and manage, so that when we have needs like this, these are all things that need to be done, right?
Correct, absolutely.
But we're able to use that PI fund to appropriately take care of our buildings and keep them in good shape, so,
Yes.
thank you.
I do wanna be a little hyper corrective, it's a cooperative purchasing, not competitive. It's a
Did I say
cooperative,
competitive? I'm
it's a
sorry.
cooperative
It's co-
purchasing
co-ops,
agreement,
yes.
and that was approved on October 24th, 2024, through Omnia Purchasing. Just like that.
But
But one thing that they do the competitive bidding.
Yeah, that's,
Right,
Yeah.
I think that's what we're.
and that's what I was trying to
Oh,
say,
yeah,
through
yeah,
the competitive bidding is through the
Through
cooperative.
That's right.
Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for clarifying this.
Sam, or maybe
Yes.
Liz, what is the status of the high school scoreboard? I understood that we would be hopefully approving something soon, so that could be installed this summer.
Yes, we have everything we need, for that packet. It is, with legal for review right now.
Sorry, what does he have to review?
Just looking at all the documents for that and
Okay.
making sure our
Okay,
cooperative purchasing agreement with Omnia is
yeah, okay.
okay.
Is the co-op you're talking about, Greg, the consortium, is that Omnia?
That's on here, yeah,
Alright.
that's one of
You're saying
them.
co-op and cooperative
Yeah.
and consortium,
Right.
I'm not sure. if there's a-
No, it's a good point, but the common ones, high school council is our local one.
Okay,
And then they have arrangements with like different national ones. Omnia is one of those, they don't necessarily have a direct tie, but they're a national group.
yeah, okay,
That we could, and like Keystone is another one we use, there's several.
yeah, I just got
As long as we're members, we're afforded, the contract options.
yeah, that's good.
Okay, so who's the co-op for the work you just described?
Omnia, we use for that. And, for the scoreboard, I'm not sure who that was.
That's
Represent Omnia as well?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
But Ohio Schools Council is an example of another one of those.
I'm more familiar with them. So Omnia is a,
National buying consortium, the school districts, public entities, others
Yeah,
are.
cities,
Are
other
cities,
states.
sure.
And then sometimes too, we also go through the Ohio, cooperative purchasing program through the state of Ohio.
Right,
Department of Administrative Service, that's a separate, that's like its own entity, right? Right.
They had a whole booth at the school board meeting.
Oh, yeah, they usually do, yeah,
Yeah, talk to those guys.
right.
Before we move on, we should say how much the, boosters are contributing to the scoreboard, what's the percentage again, can you guys remember? Cause those guys are really putting a lot of money.
They
into
are.
this, and it's a good deal,
Yeah, they are.
so, yeah, you know, it's great, it's
Yeah,
not
so,
demanding.
the district in the whole venture is putting forward $40,000, and that amount was determined because that is the replacement cost of a similar scoreboard as we have right now. Okay, it was like $39,900 something, so
Yeah.
$40,000. The, rest of the package, well, let me tell, the whole package includes $125 and change for the board itself. And then, between $5,000 and $6,000 for the takedown, current, install new electrical. And then we have a PO for above 5 and under 6, I can get the exact numbers, I don't have them in front of me, for the data and tech wiring, okay, the cabling. So for that whole package, the district will put in $40,000. The Ed Foundation will match, is going to rather give us $91,000, $25,000 of which is coming from the Rocky River Education Foundation.
Yeah, okay.
And so if I was recalling the numbers correctly, in the world of like 67,000 is coming from the boosters.
Yeah, that's like a jump in.
Yes,
The total project, $131,544.66.
thank you.
Of that, $39,980 was the like-kind, and the boosters then, the activity boosters, are putting in, the balance, $66,544. And then I think you mentioned it, our, educational foundation, $25,000.
So, yeah, we have all the quotes and everything that we need, it's just that legal for review.
Coach, I hate it when he's right, he has to be right.
I'm sure you took those numbers from my spreadsheet.
So,
If I had to put a couple of names on the boost, who really drove it from their side, is there a couple of names worth saying out loud?
So Sarah Lang is the president.
yeah.
So you had Sarah and 2 or 3 others, I mean, this wasn't everybody, it was just certain people pushing it. Is it worth mentioning anyone or maybe it's not?
By the legacy project idea, and so they had done the Hall of Fame the year before, and then I think was sort of
I would just be clear on timeline, because I know, in the superintendent updates, we've gotten, summer, like you said, Sam, kids walk out, workers walk in. So is this gonna be ready to go so that we can get the installation for the summer?
That is our
That is the
plan.
hope. Okay, so we should hopefully see it next week or whenever we're together again. Okay.
That is my hope for that. Thank you.
I do have another question, that quote had a lot of stuff and then one big number at the bottom, 125,000. Could they line item that quote a little bit better? Cause there's several buckets.
Would, tell
I
me
think
the
it was
buckets.
Lake Tech,
No, Lake Tech's in its own,
pardon me?
Lake Tech's in its own quote. Lake Tech has its own quote for about $500 and some dollars. And then Southwest has a quote for, 5,000 and change for the install, and all the rest is for Daktronics.
Okay, Daktronics, but that was quite a list, like 2 pages of stuff, and then one big number at the bottom. Could they line item some of those buckets a little bit, would be helpful.
I'll ask them if they can.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna-
I'll reach out to our
Component,
Yeah, we'll
We'll take
reach
it.
out, but I'm not gonna have that hold it up.
There's an equipment,
Right.
no, I'm not asking for
Yeah.
that, I just,
We will ask, Adam is his name, Adam Miller.
oh, okay.
Oh, at Tektronix,
At Tektronix.
right, yep, and I've got a contacted, Omnia that I can ask as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right. On to HR update, if that's okay. So, two, central office positions, I wanted to talk about first. Communication specialist position, that's been posted. I've, been working with, Mr. Sherg on that, giving him, access to the candidates, and we've been talking through that. He just has some details that he needs to get regarding the position, and then once we have that, we'll start inviting folks in for interviews. And then the assistant treasurer position, I believe, that may even be on for tonight, Mr.
Yep.
Marcus?
It is.
Great.
Thank you.
Might you guys have in your folders a document that looks like that? Perfect. So there are 2 tables on this, this document. The top one, outlines, all of the retirements that we had, in the district, certified, teaching, and/or interventionist positions. And as you can see from those retirements, there are some that are in white and there are some that are in green. The ones that are in green are being replaced via posting, and so we have those posted currently. The ones in white were able to be, either not, filled because of enrollment, which is that .4 Spanish, or they were able to be filled with transfers from other buildings. We, put something out called a position preference form, and that's contractual to all of our, teaching staff. Not, tutors, but just RRTA. And on there, they're able to say, hey, I'd like to, if you need me somewhere, I'd be interested in moving to a different building, or I want to go to grade 2 from grade 1, whatever it is, they have their opportunity to tenants. It doesn't mean it automatically will be filled or honored, but, this year we were able to do a lot with that. So, you can see that in the top table. In the bottom table, that gives you, an opportunity to see really who was transferred from where, to where. So, as an example, KIS ELA, that's where Ted Glavis was, but Jackie Hain, who's currently in grade 1, will be, in that, role, because Teddy, Glavis, of course, will be at, the middle school in science. So one of the key things to take away from this document is that, the teaching, FTEs are down, will be down 1.9, which is really great. And then the interventionist, FTEs will be up 0.5, and that is because at the middle school, instead of filling, Laura Brabant's position with a 1.0 math, we can do 1.0 math, 1.0 interventionist for that position. I'm sorry, 0.5, not 1.0.
Yeah.
Total of 1.0, right? 1.5, 1.5. What am I, like losing my mind here? 0.5, 0.5, there we go. So, there you have it. We were able to do a lot, with that this year. A lot of people had interest in moving. It was great, and the numbers kind of worked out, and being able to, realize 1.9, reduction in teaching FTE was pretty significant.
Now, that's almost a correction from last year, because no, we went up last year, actually, we went up in council. So, just kind of looking at the whole
It's
thing.
typically been like
Yeah.
one a year, you know, is pretty much how it has been over time. But, that is a bit of a correction, sure.
Yeah.
And our net FTEs, sorry, our net FTEs have gone up a little bit year by year.
They have.
So it
They
is,
have.
it's good to get a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
To get some back.
And this is just, because Liz, if I'm not mistaken, and I, forgive me if I'm mistaken, but in the board briefing, I think you had discussed the section of kindergarten. So just take that into account, or this is just as of the second?
This is as of now, and it takes into account that on Friday, I activated, one more all-day kindergarten section. So 6 next year, we're gonna have 7 right now because of where numbers were.
So I'm sorry, so that is.
That's in here.
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you.
That's good, you guys.
Thank you.
The last component, here, this evening would be the STRS, retirement eligibility changes. There were several changes that were, announced. Ms. Anderson, did you want to speak to those?
Sure, we linked here in the agenda, just a link right to the, notice on STRS website. And this is something that, this isn't, controlled by Rocky River Schools, this is a state teacher retirement system change. And this actually was announced while we were on spring break, I think, or right at the beginning of spring break. I can't remember, but we weren't in school. And essentially, they adjusted just within the last couple weeks, unreduced, minimum age and years of service. They adjusted that to 32 years of service or age 65 and 5 years. So previous to that change a couple weeks ago, it was 33 years of service through 2027, but now they've made this change to 32 years of service from reduced through May 1, 2030. So, I gave you a printout of what that link that's in the agenda says, but it's also linked right in the agenda for anyone listening or here.
Thanks for that update. It's always good to know what's going on in the state, I mean, with everything else we talked about, but this changes a lot for different people, and it has been changing over the last couple of years pretty significantly, so it's good to just keep our head above water on this one, so thank you.
Thank you.
Sam? Policy and legislation. Two things on the policy and legislation update. The first one is the revision to the 25-26 calendar. This is gonna be on next week's business agenda for approval adoption. And a reminder that the changes, reflected on next year's calendar were the start date for preschool, the senior, October 9th, no school for seniors, college and career planning day. And, why am I? Thank you. Kindergarten, first day for kindergarten as a result of our new 3-day orientation. So those were the, because it went well, the senior day and orientation last year, hence the change to this. So that is on next Thursday's agenda for approval. The next calendar I want to bring you is the, to announce the official start of the hearing for district policy for the 26-27 school year calendar. For those people who participated in the survey that was open for several weeks actually, 1B is what was selected, and to be honest, 1B looks just like all of our other calendars. Start right, around that third week of August, we have our spring break that starts Good Friday and the week thereafter. We have parent-teacher family conference day, start the Thursday and Friday, the first or second week of November. So it's the one that looks like standard operating procedure, at least as long as I've been here. So I just wanted to bring that to your announcement. This one will be on the June business agenda for approval and adoption.
There's just one point to call out about the draft that was overwhelmingly, thank for the data too, overwhelmingly selected by other people. Easter happens to fall really nicely at the end of third quarter.
Sure does.
So what I like about this and what I hope we can consider in future years is spring break after third quarter ends, rather than in the middle of April, in the middle of testing, like sort of by the way in the calendar. So this just happens to work in our favor there, and then the last day of third quarter is right before spring break. It just feels better for kids.
We're excited to give this a test run, and the truth is, had it not been, you would have seen a draft that had that, cause that was, you know, when talking with some people, that was going to be my plan, to bring one that looks like that. Spring break starting at the third, fourth quarter, change.
Yeah.
Curriculum, a couple of things, the math courses study continues to be available for review outside of the curriculum office. That's gonna be on next Thursday's agenda for approval, that's math K-12. Much appreciation to our math team at the 4 buildings, and Brian for helping us out there as always with his on-point advice. So, sharing flyers, you'll see attached here, we do have some flyers shared with you. We have a basketball camp this summer and a football camp, I think last month they shared volleyball. All of our teams are getting their youth camps, you know, our coaches and then our kids help run camps over the summer for the youth. And so now's the time they're getting all those fired up. So I'll share them as they continue to come along.
Liz, good question on that. There is a fee for kids to participate. Where does the fee go? Who receives that fee? What does it cover?
So that fee, the registration is actually linked. Greg works with Mark Wagner and they link that to the activity account for that specific that activity. And in the case of basketball, for example, you'll notice there's like one for girls, one for boys, linked to each the appropriate account. Then those coaches use that for whether it's, you know, here you will soon also see field trip forms for them to go to their camps in the fall, maybe, or the summer. They'll use them for that, they'll use them for t-shirts. Various costs associated with that activity, but for that activity at the high school.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. And Jen, pupil services updates.
We just received some alternate assessment test scores, and so I am very excited to share some information with you. I know that Liz shared an overview of our results from the other day in the Friday letter. However, I like to do a little internal analysis where I take a look at what are we doing here with our kids in district, and so that's what this represents. There you go. Greg, you get one too.
Oh, thank you.
So the essence of this is the first column, you will note the one thing that I always track is most of our students who are alternatively assessed are, there are students with the most significant cognitive disabilities that have to have a significant cognitive disability in order to qualify to participate in this. But they also are children who are learning through the extended standards, and oftentimes are most of our children who are outplaced. So what I did here is you will see, I have given you some percentages of where we are with our children who are placed in district. So instructionally, how we are performing with the children that are here. I'm desperately trying to get some changes made for our out-of-district students, as far as what they're doing, but I can't control how they're teaching there, so I can make suggestions. So if you look overall, all of our tests, we had about a 96% passage rate for in-district students. ELA was at 100%, math was at 91%, science was also 100%, and then we did not have any students in district participate in social studies. So you will see that definitely, when you incorporate the other numbers, which is what will be presented, when those roll out in our state performance plan, our special education performance plan, you'll see the lower of the two, but I thought it served great importance to kind of look at where we are performing. You'll see that we had 20 students who were in the advanced range, and then, I've kind of laid that out, and you can read that on your own. So 16 of our out-of-district students are represented in these numbers.
And the numbers on the right.
On the right, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Mhm. So we really only had one student in district on one test perform in the basic range. Everybody else passed. So, and like I said, 20 of those students fell into the advanced category, so that was pretty exciting. Our big focus for this year, I know that you've heard me talk about this in the past, was our middle school grades. And so I've given you a little comparison, because I think that's what's most important to take a look at, of their 2024 numbers versus the 2025 numbers. So math, sixth grade, you'll see that we had a 50% passage rate, now we're at 100%. We only had, one student, there should be nobody, that's our basic, right there, in seventh grade math. So we had one student who did not pass, in grade 7. Math, grade 8, we had a 33% passage rate before, now we're at 100%. Grade 6 ELA, 66%, now at 100. ELA grade 7, we were at 100, we stayed at 100. ELA grade 8, 33%, now we're at 100%. Total math was 33%, and now is 67. And then total ELA was 67, and now is 100. So I think that is pretty exciting, when we take a look at those scores. So I just wanted to kind of shout out to my middle school teachers who have really stepped it up. I know that we did a lot with, we're incorporating Teach Town this year, which is a curriculum that's designed for students with the extended standards. So that was a little bit of a change, and those middle school teachers picked it up and rock and rolled with it. And then I know that we also set up some time for them to meet with Brian and do some alignment to make sure that everything that instructionally we were providing was aligned with what they were supposed to be learning. And certainly you can see that paid off. So.
So Jen, this includes everybody, right? These numbers are,
Those are in district.
or the bottom part is just in district.
In district. Mhm. That's really, I know publicly what gets released is out there, but I can't control the progress of those other students. You should know, though, I do control, to some degree, their progress towards their IEP goals. So I do want you to know that while they may not be performing, and succeeding per se on the state assessment, they are making progress towards their IEP goals, because if they weren't, we'd be looking at a change in placement.
Right, your report. And then this report is everybody in one bucket, right? These numbers reflect everybody together in and out. Okay.
I did further break those down, my analysis, I have the ELA and the math incorporated in there, but, and you can do that math, yourself. We did have a huge portion of kids taking, high school assessments last year, so the alternative assessment is only offered one time in high school, and if they didn't pass a section of it, then they'll retake it. So for example, last year in high school math, there were 10 students who took or retook that test. So since that's a graduation requirement, some of them have to retake it until they pass. So, you'll see our math scores fairly consistent over the 2 years. I just kind of clumped all those kids in together. But like ELA, when you move those high school kids up into that first box, last year we had a 54% passage rate, and this year, we're at like 70. So it's pretty exciting. So, any other questions? Okay, that's all I
your renewals and applications of services report.
Sure, mine is just information for the board to be aware of. You'll recall that in prior years, we always did a general, meeting at the organization meeting, a big giant list of all kinds of things that we were going to renew and pay for. That was chosen not to be done by the board this year. So this year, you're going to see a whole slew of applications coming through. And those are instructional applications, those are operational applications that come through, and I'm working with legal counsel, who I think I saw walk in there he is, to get those through as each independent contracts. That number ranges somewhere around 75 right now of just individual things that have to be consistently renewed to get those things up and running, just even for our just general operation of the school district. So I wanted you to be aware that I'm working with Mr. Markling on those, and they will be soon starting to show up on board agendas for approval.
Thanks, Brian.
From?
And that concludes the.
Can I ask Brian before you, this is the first year that you've done this, what did you guys call it? Working with Jen to do a reassessment of the students? Yeah, realignment, sorry. This is the first year you've done that?
We've done alignment with our special ed interventionists, in multiple years, but I think this was really a concentrated effort
Yeah.
specifically to our students that were on extended standards.
Yeah, cause something went right, Brian, so I just was trying to figure out what went right.
I can tell you our process was, we looked at our data from last year, we deep dove into that data, identified strengths and weaknesses based on various domains that you've heard me talk about at previous board meetings, and then from there, we kind of set some instructional plans. Jen brought in some additional resources like Teach Now to go ahead and support those students in the classroom, and it seems to be working.
Thank you.
Alright, so, I have an agenda item here, that is a topic of recent discussion, so, just came out Friday, so hopefully everyone got my email, with those reports, but it's the Auditor of State Preliminary Financial Health Indicators. So, this is like, they've been making a little bit of news, in school district, circles, just because this is kind of a new well, it is a new process for schools. I guess the Auditor of State has been running these physical health indicators, for cities and villages and counties as well, for several years now. So they're now just kind of extrapolating those, to school districts. And remember that the state already has a rating system for financial distress, as we call it, meaning caution, watch, and emergency. So schools have always had indicators that are looked at by the state of, now Department of Education and Workforce and the other state, and these are just layered on top. And they're kind of interesting because, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but they kind of seem to contradict the whole cash balance discussion that is currently pending legislation. So I'll throw a comment or two on that, on what I think on that. But again, this is the first pass. I will just give my overview. I think, so of all the indicators, you'll see we have one red, we have 5 yellow, right? Or 6? 5, okay. And then the rest are green. So we still get a, I'll call it a passing score on financial health according to these indicators. A couple of things just to highlight, the one critical piece has to do with debt. And as you know, you've all been on the board at least a few years, and some of you longer, school districts, by virtue of our funding, take on debt for capital projects, right? That is what we have to do. And so that is really reflected here. If you go to any school district, more likely than not, they're going to have some debt on their books. And I'm talking long-term debt, right? So we're talking 30-plus year bonds, even lease purchases that are for like building, think of our preschool or, those kind of things. Not related to technology, because those are shorter term and they get paid off quicker. But anything building related, is gonna be affecting that number. That being said, I did indicate that you see, and really that spreadsheet helps a lot because it gives you the numbers behind it and kind of shows you a trend. And you see that number has actually gone down a little bit, but it's still pretty high, right? It's, 181%, I think is where we were landing. But I just felt it was, proper to keep it in perspective as to why that's red, and that's not going, I haven't looked at a bunch of other districts yet, these are just coming out, but my guess is more often than not, you're gonna see that red for districts.
Greg, that was, as I looked at this, that was my question, and as we discussed, when the auditor of state noted they were gonna do this, they were taking what applies to cities and townships and applying to school districts, which is just different, right? It's not necessarily apples to apples.
Right.
Are you aware of any plans to, or maybe in your circles or ASBO, to compile and say, look, every school, like to your point about debt ratio, like that's how we operate in funding our capital expenses.
Right.
Is there any anticipated effort to aggregate and say if every single district is in critical outlook on this indicator, does that actually tell us something about the value of the indicator?
Yeah, so the short answer is no, but I'm sure that's going to
That will
come out,
come,
and
yeah.
that's a great point, because I am actually gonna ask that question.
Yeah.
Because to your point, and I think it, this is, again, I think this is a good opportunity to kind of set out there the differences in how entities are funded. So while, and mind you, like, I don't mind the auditor of state doing this, I think it's one more tool, it's a tool they've used, it gives you a perspective on your finances, and I think that's always appreciated, right? But this one in particular, to me, underscores the differences between how maybe a city and a village and a county is funded and how a school is funded. As you know, cities and villages particularly have income tax. Schools could have it, but not, there are some schools, more rural schools where they don't have, as much residential property, maybe they have more agricultural, and that's how it works. But think of like in the bigger counties, Cuyahoga County, for instance, all the cities here, all the villages have income tax. They also have a charter village, right? So they are not capped by 920. So think of an income tax that rises with inflation of wages and rises with property tax values without a cap. So they always have, for the most part, an increasing block rate. We don't have, we have a slight to flat kind of line, right? So hence, over a 10-year period, 15-year period, you have to fund capital. How are you gonna do it? We have a lot less opportunity to pay cash for things. If I just boil it down to like really basic elements, we have less opportunity to do that. Now, we have done that, we do that, we were just talking about, right, we have some PI projects, we're not borrowing those, because those are thin, but when you're talking about $1 million, $2 million projects, those are big projects. So again, not to belabor it, but I think it's just a good opportunity to understand the differences, and to your point, Ms. Wilson, yeah, I'm gonna love to see how many districts, and, what percentage of districts, and maybe what type of districts have that number being read by a lot, right? So again, and just because the red sticks out, I felt I wanted to at least address that. That being said, you see some of these other indicators, and generally speaking, a lot of them relate to the cycle, right? Your revenue kind of flattens out, your expenses kind of step up, but again, like tonight, we're talking about pulling back some FTEs, so that kind of helps bend that a little bit, but generally speaking, it goes up, and we've talked about this for years, this is how this works. So you see this, the bigger picture is that's what's going on. And you'll see from the prior year, I thought it was perfect timing, because as you know, we're kind of in that plateau spot of our levy cycle, and we're gonna start to stair step down. You see last year, meaning in 23, remember these are final audited numbers, so as of 6/30/23, we had a lot more green. Now 6/30/24, we got some more yellow. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I didn't wanna, again, first pass, I didn't wanna really nitpick all of these details. Obviously, this will be a bigger discussion as we go, but to me, that's like, those are the, like, I guess, the takeaways from this so far. And it's not that surprising from what we're seeing. So with that, you know, I'm sure each of you have looked at it, maybe have some different questions. Is there any questions that kind of stick out that I can try to answer?
I think it's only me, but I do find it humorous that 2 weeks ago, we were getting legislation that said no more cash. And now we get a report that says you should hold more cash.
Right, you should hold more cash, right? Yes, and thank you, I mean, that was my point. You know, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, you just can't quite understand, right, from the state level. Now, admittedly, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the auditor has come out, Favor has come out and said, I don't necessarily like this legislation. I think he said that, which, you know, which is true to what they're trying to do here, but I don't know, does that fall on deaf ears? Because there are a lot of factors in play, but I think the timing is interesting. So, again, these are preliminary reports, they're not, you know, put out to the public yet, like the daughter state's trying to run, but it doesn't mean they would do question or whatnot, but they're gonna come out. That's gonna make a big splash on it, and it will be interesting once we get that data to see maybe some of our neighbors, some like districts, some different types of different districts, what these. But as we know, schools go back to state funding levels and your local property taxes. The stronger you are supported locally, the better off you're gonna be long term. If you're, you know, a larger district, maybe that tends to be more on the state side, you know, that's a different analysis and mistakes look a little different.
Thank you for giving the preview of this, knowing that this is gonna come out and it's gonna get picked up, and I think, at the risk of jumping ahead a bit to the legislative update, so much of what's happening requires education of the general public and the taxpayer, and I think your point is a really important one. A lot of what these indicators are assessing are actually things that are not aligned to how we are funded. And so I think, like, as much as we could like dig into the numbers, I appreciate your approach, and I would encourage, again, you working with our neighbors to align and say, okay, in every North Shore district that are generally well supported by their community, highly, you know, property tax funded, not a lot of, like, if we're all kind of getting the same scores, there's something that doesn't seem right. So I think as much as we could like quibble into this, and I think it's worth doing if you think it's necessary, but I actually think it's an opportunity, it presents us another opportunity to educate our community about how are we actually funded, what does this actually mean, red or yellow or green is not actually necessarily bad, good, and terrible, right, based on how we operate. And so I appreciate that, and I think we would be wise to continue that discussion, especially as we're getting further into the legislative budget.
Any other questions for Mary?
Thank you. Very entertaining. You know, just, sorry, no one really ever wants to hear this, so the reinforces that our strategy as to how we're funding the school is exactly the right strategy. And what we need to argue about is the levels, the amounts, you know, how much we levy and what we can spend on, but I think the strategy is the right strategy. And that really sets the table for a lot of other things to become right, to work well. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, of course.
I do have a quick question too. And as of right now, the state, this is really just informational for districts, right? Like that they're not doing anything with it, this is not punitive measures, this is just here's some information for you.
Yeah, it is, but as we know, you know.
Right, no, right.
these-
But right
these
now,
little-
that's not the case.
Right, and I'm not even saying that's necessarily like, is it bad?
Yeah.
Is it bad to look at these? No, not at all, not at all. It's not. It's just to your point of like, there are certain things that are controllable more so, and there are other things that are less controllable. And, you know, by fixing, okay, we don't want that ratio, okay, so we're never gonna take out that. Okay, we're repairing that back. you've seen, we've actually paid net, have paid our net, our ratios moving down.
Yep.
But we can make, you, as a board, can make a decision, the next 10 years, we're not gonna borrow that. Well, okay, then what are you gonna do with the building?
What else? Handcuffs,
Or-
handcuffs yourself, when you
Right.
guys are.
Exactly. So then, right, and that's where, it's important to know, like, where your funding's come from, like, the capital, the PI funding, if you're gonna do a bond issue. Why are you doing a bond issue? Well, this is why, because you're not gonna, raise your cash balance, unless the state tells you you have to, right? You're not gonna take all your operating cash balance and spend it all on your thing, because that's not prudent. It's a
Right.
long-term strategy.
And it's such a mixed message because we have to do that because of House Bill 120. You have to set levies with somewhat of a future period in mind. We generally go to 5 years, it matches our forecast. It keeps the levies within a reasonable amount that the community is generally willing to support, but you have to do it that way. You have to manage it because of House Bill 920. So, the State House puts you in that box and then they try to box you at the other end. It's a very mixed message.
Yeah, and again, it's right, it's very, again, these are being extrapolated over to our entity type, right, schools, and it's, to your point, it's very, that, the funding part is very different, really, and these will look different. Actually, I haven't looked, just because we're here at Rocky River, did anybody take a look at the cities? I have not. Okay. I'm just
Worth
curious.
looking at, yeah.
My guess is they probably got a lot more green, I mean, I'm just thinking that they do,
Right.
right?
One thing that's in here that is probably we're seeing is that, net assets to depreciation, and what that suggests is that things in this district are getting older.
Yes.
We're gonna have to
You saw
have some
that,
kind of
right, we know
expenditure
that.
that goes,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Right.
we don't have that, other than the middle school, things are old here. We're maintaining the old, so at some point in time in the future, we're probably looking at a break.
Greg, I have one more, just finance question generally. So we have a 5-year forecast due at the end of the month. And that, for now, despite all the rhetoric in the State House, is still a 5-year forecast. That will look the same.
At least this month it is.
Okay, so we should be prepared. And again, I think that's another opportunity for, discussion and education, which is like, what is a 5-year forecast? Why do we look at it? Why is 5 years actually helpful?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing that is being discussed, is a shortened 5-year forecast, which actually is not prudent planning. So
Right.
we'll look forward to doing that with you, Greg.
Yep.
next week.
And actually, just before I go on, any other questions on? Okay, I did have, speaking of five-year forecast, I had a discussion with, Mrs. Spring here, and again, not for sure yet, but our board meeting is the 15th, meaning our business meeting. So I would typically have that for you, we review it, finance meeting, and then I'd have you adopt that forecast, just with, obviously with everything going on in my office and such. So I am still targeting that, however, I did, have this good discussion with Kelly about potentially extending that a little bit, and what that would require is potentially a board meeting the following week. I'm not there yet, but again, with all these changes and such, I I take a lot of care and put a lot of effort into being very, very granular as I build these forecast models, and I just feel like this one in particular at this time, I wouldn't wanna kind of rush through it. And so I'm just putting that out as an option. Again, I'm still working away to hopefully have something for you. And obviously I'll have something for you at that meeting, it's just, it may not be in final approved format. And again, to your point, Ms. Wilson, we do have to the end of the month, so, we'll talk about that. Again, the good thing, we don't have, we aren't, looking at a levy in November or in, next year at this point. So, we've got a little time, but in full disclosure, this one will let you know, so. All right, thank you, that's all I have.
Perfect. All right, next up is Board of Education report. I just wanna let everybody know about our July 8th date to move it from pencil to pen. I talked with Dr. Dan Good, who was one of the facilitators that Mr. Scher, gave me, and he is on board for that. He is, meeting with Adam next week to start their agenda planning, but I wanted to let you guys know if there are things you want to bring forward to the table. I would love if you guys could send those to me, so when the three of us sit down, we all have our lists and we can make sure everything gets on that agenda for July 8th. Dr. Dan Good is out of, the ESC down there. He has been a superintendent at, I'm gonna either mix it up, Westerville or Worthington, one of the two. He also was at Columbus, so he has experience in level districts and different areas. So, he can highly recommend it and was able to do it, got back to me very quickly. So I wanted to make sure, like I said, move it from pencil to pen, so we will have that. And the goal is to start in the morning on that day. So I just wanted to make sure everybody had that ready to go. And then send me any agenda things so I can compile our board list and take it and run it off of each other. So that is what I have, for superintendent rollout in August. Okay, anything else? All right, treasurer's report, your action items.
Alright, so I have a couple items for consideration. So, number 3A, I asked the board to approve a resolution approving full and final settlement agreement, release discharge, and covenant not to sue.
Someone,
Second.
Discussion? Roll call please.
Ms. Wilson?
yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprint?
Yes.
Ms. Maybert?
Yes.
Mrs. Olean?
Yes.
I asked the board to approve agenda item 3D, resolution approving conditional employment contract for the assistant treasurer, Mr. Norman Clark.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call please.
Ms. Maybert?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprint?
Yes.
Mrs. Olean?
Yes.
And Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
And I ask the board to approve agenda item 3C, resolution to approve agreement with Shared Service Alliance for threshold cost reimbursement support.
Second.
And what is this for, Greg?
Sure. So, I had shared with the board, what I was working on here, so this threshold cost reimbursement is what we used to refer to as catastrophic cost reimbursement. And it's a process by which we have to essentially collect costs for our our special education population that meets certain thresholds. So this, it's a pretty laborious process. So, you know, Dale, who was my prior assistant treasurer, right, kind of ran this process. She had completed some of it before she left the district, so we needed additional support, and luckily the Shared Service Alliance has folks there that do this, and were able to help us, of course, with a lot of internal help still with Becky Novak and Teresa Holby specifically really helped us out, to get our final submission to the state. And that had to be done by April 30th, or we would not be able to claim any funds. And we're talking, when it's all said and done, $400,000 to $500,000, it's pretty significant. So this is really just to help us sort of capture everything we need to do in that arena.
Greg, I don't remember us doing this in past years, is this?
The support part of it?
Yeah.
No,
We done this?
we haven't, because
Okay.
Dale was here, and
Okay.
we were able to do it internally. And
Got it.
this year, just with that deadline, I had no wiggle room, so these folks luckily were able to step in.
That's great. Okay, I understand.
We are members of the ESC of Northeast Ohio, and isn't this under their umbrella? So I was curious, I also noticed online, they're called North Coast Shared Services and sometimes Shared Services, but ultimately, aren't we contracting with ESC, and is this in any way covered under our current membership benefits?
That's a great question.
The services are the pay for them.
I thought it might be. I did ask that question. I was told that this is a separate service outside of the ESC contract, so that's hence why they gave me a separate quote. And and mind you, remember, what they have in there is literally what they're gonna do for us, a maximum amount, and that's it, it's not holding, there's no additional sum.
Okay.
But, again, because I did ask that question, and they provided it to me in this format, confirmed it, so I felt like I needed to bring this to you, even though it is, in our world, kind of a minor amount, it was still something that they formally gave me an agreement for, so.
But we don't contract with ESC,
We did, we did.
because this says shared services, that's.
Right, cause it's a separate unit, and that's how they're billing it. And this is only, I thought the same thing, I thought,
Okay,
why,
good.
couldn't you just do this?
Glad
But
you're asking these
they
questions.
told me no, so, this is what I had. Yeah, and again, I had no time to even bring this to you in advance, right, obviously, they've already done the work. Now, we do have the appropriations for it, it's not like I'm asking for additional budget, but, because I can move money around and cover this. And obviously, we're saving on personnel at this point, but, yeah, this is an example of something that was of the utmost time was of the essence kind of thing, and that's the only reason that it's here.
And I see you've got the right signature pages and the certificate, the resolution will be on here, so it's all according to our
Yeah.
template.
Yeah, those are the template pieces
According to
that I
our
had.
standard.
You got it?
Thank you, thanks for asking those questions.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
All right, Ms. Nagler?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes,
Mrs. Sprint?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
Excellent, thank you. I recommend the board approve agenda item 4A, the resolution approving conditional employment, contract for Robert Scott Rafe, August 1, 25 to July 31, 26.
So moved. Second. Discussion?
We spent a lot of time on this one, we got it.
Yep, I'm glad
Yeah.
we're moving forward.
it's a good check.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Nagler?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprint?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
I recommend the board approve agenda item 4B, the resolution to approve agreement for provision of special education and certain related services with Applewood Centers, Inc.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion?
this is a renewal, isn't it?
This is a placement of a student, special ed placement.
Yeah, we've used these people before anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
We use them,
Yeah, thank you.
but it's individual, right?
Yeah, okay.
and it's just one payment, it's for current year,
For the current year.
1 month.
Yeah, for the rest of the year.
Okay, and then I know we're trying to be standard with our contracts, the signed signature pages look a little different.
This is, reviewed by our special ed legal counsel, Christina Peer.
Yes, there's still a contract, and we're using kind of a template approach, and we're making sure everything's signed, properly, I think it should be consistent.
All right. I've asked Mr. Markling to talk to Christina, Peer, so that he could share those thoughts in the future when she prepares contracts for, placements, that she takes his comments into consideration.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Nagler?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprint?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
I recommend the board approve agenda item 4C, resolution to approve agreement for an alternate placement with United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Cleveland.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion?
yes, I did see something in here that I think needs to be amended, and I did call Greg on this, this looked more in line with our sort of contract template, however, it includes possible payment of late fees, which I think legally we cannot do, and recovery of, attorney's fees on collections, so I would like to move that we amend that, or can you move to amend that, how do we do that?
You can move to amend it, I'll just comment and say that, you're absolutely right, we cannot nor would we ever pay a late fee.
Yeah.
So
That just came out from auditor, so that
Yes,
just
a
happened to
reminder.
come out, and I saw this in here, so again, this is a question I raised to Greg right before the meeting, but, that language needs to be amended, so I would like to move that you will amend that language,
Okay.
and we can approve as amended.
Okay.
And again, just make sure it's signed, consistently with our contract and fiscal certificate.
Yeah, this would be right in line.
It was reviewed by legal.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Right.
reviewed by, our special ed legal counsel, just so that everyone knows.
Again, no, I know it was reviewed, I just wanna make sure we're consistently doing our contracts and templates. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so then then I need a second for the amended contract. We have a first, a second for amended to take out the, late fees and legal payments.
I second.
Discussion on that. Okay, roll call on that.
Mrs. Olander?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mrs. Grant?
Yes,
Ms. Mayor?
yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
all right, and then, are we good on that, or do I need to go? Good on that one? Okay. Layers.
Yes.
All right, so then, next up, we have our board agenda for review for next Thursday, the 15th, so if everybody can review that.
So I have the 5-year forecast, that's something that we're doing in functions.
Any other discussion points? Move to public participation. We have one person, Mr. Stephen Shepherd, if you wanna come up, you have 2 minutes. Feel free to use the podium. All right.
Alright, so I got an email last week and I'm not sure why. It says, I don't believe that, there was purposeful lack of potential details. The reason why is because I emailed twice this year about flags. I've had, the whole thing is about attention to detail. I've called out board members and admin for not hitting the button on their mics for during the board meetings, because you guys have to, I take it that that's for recording the meetings. I've also, had to let the HR director know, when filling out an application with the district, the Gallup form doesn't work, so that it drives questions on why it's even in the application to begin with. I found this out by a 5-minute phone call by calling the Gallup website. This comes to the signs of reading payouts, is why people that don't need to set in payments are getting payments. I mean, if you read the PDF file that's on the website, it's very clear who should be getting payouts and who shouldn't. So with this all said, it's very clear why I'm getting emails back from the admin saying I don't believe there's a purpose of lack of attention to details. As for the flags, what it did for me, seeing it in front of the high school, was that 2 hours later after I did the email, I got another email stating that the flagpole is broken. Why was it not known right after it happened, that the flagpole was broken, and why is it not known to the community that the high school flagpole is broken? Memorial Day's coming up. American flag is tattered and it goes like crap in front of the high school. It might not mean something to you guys, it does to me. I served the country 20 years, the flag means something. So, With that being said, I don't appreciate having to call the district twice until the flags are tattered in front of our schools. It's ridiculous. We have a facility manager that gets paid a lot of money. And if he can't go around school, there's 5 buildings in this district, he can go to each school and look at flags and do a 5-minute lookup at the flags. It doesn't matter. If you can't look at little details, what makes you think you can't look at the big
Thank you,
details?
Mr. Shepherd.
I could provide any clarification if you're interested.
Yes, if you would like to provide information.
I could provide it for another business.
Perfect. We're in other business.
Oh, we are?
Yep.
Oh,
I need
the
the
other business.
yes.
Excellent, so thank you, yes, I was the one who did share the email with you that I don't believe that we intentionally, hoisted a tattered flag. I know that our team, our head custodians at every building is, very much in tune to that. I went ahead and sent you that email response because knowing my my custodial team in each building, I don't believe they would have purposefully upset you. So, that's why I sent the email and I said that I would personally email them and let them know, just a reminder every morning because they're the ones who hoist and take down the flag, not certainly Sam or any, one in the maintenance department unless someone's absent. So I wanted to personally take care of that. And it was upon sending that email to each building, staff that I learned that the whole of the high school had been reported, its mechanism was not working, and, they reported that to the company about last week. So, they are working on getting that fixed, in fact, I believe it may have come down, we were unable to actually take it down for a few days, so, I do apologize, I know that, we have actually a number of flags, and I reiterated in that email that I sent last week to our building custodians to never hesitate. Sam and Robin at our maintenance facilities office have actually a number that they keep in stock of different sizes depending on which pole it is. So they always know, and then Robin in our office actually has protocol then for collecting all the worn ones and properly disposing of them. I did also share when I sent the email to the building custodians, Department of Defense Link for proper care of, flags and stuff. So it certainly wasn't purposeful, anyone's intent to upset anyone, and we were already on the flagpole mechanisms needing corrected, so. That was me who sent the email and then had to send another one. I didn't know that it was not working, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew it wasn't working once I found it out.
It's good timing with the holidays and the summer, and a lot more people are gonna see it, so it's a good catch, frankly, Steve, thank you.
I'm sure that's why we checked it out and submitted it for repair too,
Yeah,
because of all the
that's
summer holidays.
Thank you for following up on that, and I'm sure Robin is aware, but we do have a disposal box at, the city campus. It's right there, next to the fire department. You can literally drive through and there's a deposit box where they properly dispose of flags. That's where I take all of mine, so I'm sure she knows, but in case she doesn't, it's very convenient and well cared for. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to our legislative update. So Ms. Wilson, I will hand it to you.
So the Legislative Liaison Network, as always, meets the last Monday of the month, which this month is April 28th. There actually wasn't much new legislation presented because the legislature was on break. But OSBA is still tracking over 100 pieces of legislation pertaining to schools and over 30 related to property tax reform. The headline, one of the things we talked about with property tax reform on this OSBA call was the multiple and simultaneous attempts, making it really difficult for the Legislative Services Commission to actually know what the impact is gonna be. So the strategy of like 30 bills with all these different ways of reducing property taxes is not only difficult to advocate around, but also difficult to really know what's gonna actually happen, both for public entities and for taxpayers. keeping an eye on all of that. The big one that we did talk about was Senate Bill 66, which is House Bill 129. And the biggest, most of the property tax reform changes are around the 20 mil floor, which we're fortunate not to be at the 20 mil floor. But this one also has some other provisions like not being able to convert inside millage, a couple of other things. So they meaning OSBA, our legislative folks are feeling like this is probably gonna be the one that's gonna stick, so they're keeping an eye on that. Otherwise, the House Bill 96, the biennial budget, we keep talking about, Liz and Greg, thank you both for the work you're doing to like give us all the things that you're getting. There's so much good coverage about this. Our colleagues in other districts are doing a lot of the same things we have done, as well as superintendents around holding news conferences and talking to the media and helping to educate what's happening. And as a result, that budget cash balance cap continues to get pushback, including by the county auditors saying it's not a good idea, which I think is useful because they're the ones that have to operationalize it. OSBA on the call just continued to suggest education for legislators. There's still talk that like cash balances are a rainy day fund, as we just talked about. They're not a rainy day fund, they're how we fund our schools over the course of the levy cycle. So my sort of question for you all, and Liz had shared the Senate schedule, they're starting to have their hearings this week, and expecting to put out their version on May 16th with a substitute version on June 3rd. So my question for all of you is, I'm proud of the work we've done so far around the resolutions we passed, the letters that we sent. We have friendly legislators in our particular district. I'm not sure what else there is appetite for us to do, but our association is encouraging us to continue to advocate. So I will welcome any ideas. I feel like we're in an interesting spot because of who we have in the State House representing us, but there's lots of other ways we could engage. But I'd be curious if folks have appetite for that. Also recognizing frankly that our superintendent and treasurer are particularly busy, given some of our, we're down some people in our central office, and so I'm not like super psyched about pulling folks away from day to day to go to Columbus and things like that, but I think if we all felt really strongly, we could figure out something. I'm curious what questions folks have for ideas. Or I don't know, I didn't see any follow-up from Kelly when you sent the letters, but I'm curious.
I have not gotten any feedback.
We're hearing from folks in the community.
Just, there are some folks in the community that I know are engaged on this and wanna help. I don't know, and I also know it's going to a Senate Finance Committee next, is that right? It's currently in their.
It's currently in, it's in the education and then finance. I have to look at the schedule. But it's like both, it's both.
Yeah.
Cause it's the budget is not just this, it's like all the things, so it's,
So I guess, obviously we know that, we are represented by folks who are supportive of public schools, which is great. But is it worthwhile / helpful to maybe send our letter and our concerns to the people on, either one or both of those committees? Just throwing it out there.
I don't know why. I don't think it would hurt to do that, to send it out. I mean, like, to me, there's no con in that. So I feel like that's a pretty straightforward email with kind of how we send it to our direct people. So sending it to those, like the chairs of both the Senate, Education and Finance, I mean, I don't think it hurts, like truthfully, in my opinion, but.
I would agree with that. And I'm trying to like really think of other ways to engage, and Jess, you mentioned like sending someone in person for testimony. What about like submitting written testimony? Like, is that something that we would have an appetite for? Or what are, I mean, has that come up in a circle? Like, what are our thoughts on that?
I'm all for pushing whatever,
Yeah, I agree.
you won't have to twist my arm to do a lot, so, if that's something we all feel
No, in person is better.
Oh, that's-
It's really hard.
That's what I'm saying, but like,
And it's such a
looking at the big
Yeah.
picture of everything, I think anything we can get in there right now, and because we already have some stuff drafted and written up, I think we can move on it quickly. But that's my own personal opinion on this.
I fully agree. So the education committee testimony is due May 7th at 4 p.m. I'm looking at the form.
It would come from you, Kelly.
Because they are starting their hearings tomorrow, and
Which,
then
I'm sorry, which committee?
it's the education
Senate
committee.
The link is in Liz.
Yes, and Liz helpfully put all this out there for us, so, I would suspect that the letter would be a reasonable,
The letter.
just based on what some of the playbooks we've gotten from our representative groups, especially the Alliance, I'm just looking over what they're suggesting. I mean, the personal touch is great, I don't know if any of us can go to Compass for like a 12-hour hearing, probably not, and we have some good things to say that aren't reasonable, but I think written testimony feels like a good plan.
Yeah, we have a lot on our plate, both as a board and administration wise, so I think, but I like your idea, Lauren, that maybe we submit the written testimony. And then in addition, we have a letter, we already have a letter with good content, that makes clear our position, so why not send that? I think it is worth making an effort to send it to, I would send it to all the members of the two committees. When is the finance committee?
I don't have that in front of me, I think that's after May 16th.
Is that after?
So, I have to pull it up. They're eventually gonna get it, I just think we have to follow, I would recommend we follow the playbooks that were given by our associations on that.
We can go to,
Education first.
yeah, no, it all depends on the timing.
Yeah.
Originally, they were saying, the last report I heard was that finance might pick it up first, but the dates are now out. So yes, if education's getting it first, then I would say, let's send that letter to all the members of that committee. It's usually what, 6, 7,
Seven.
max? 8
Seven.
people, 7? Yeah. I was at a BLI meeting in districts, particularly smaller districts where they see these people on a more frequent basis. It's easier to kind of run into them at the football game around town. They are making a very concerted effort, and some folks are really feeling it. They're seeing the impact that schools have in their community, and there are folks really advocating for the importance of that. So I think it would be worthwhile. And again, I think most of the work is done. It's just a matter of someone volunteering to send it out. Is that too much of an ask? Sorry, Kelly, I'm looking at you.
No,
Is it
I
too
will
much
get
of an
that
ask?
done, I will get, the 7 members, I will email that out to the Senate education people first, as they're gonna be handling it first. And then I will pull up that form that Liz has sent to us, and I will get that letter into that form, however it needs to be for the written testimony, and make sure that is in, I will do this all tomorrow.
There's 14 on the finance, 2 of them are duplicates, so all in,
Oh.
there's about 19 total
Okay.
on the Senate side. I think we were talking about this.
Yeah. So I will attack the education groups first,
Yeah.
and then once we hear more about the finance side of it, then we can go after that. next.
Really, and then I would just remind our community, I know that you've mentioned folks are interested, Greg and Liz and the team have done a really nice job of keeping our biennial budget information website updated, so on the Rock River main page under Board of Education, so if you have any questions about what is the biennial budget, what is the fair school funding plan, what is our perspective on that based on our resolution that we passed in April, I would encourage anybody to go there, and you can find everything that is helpful. Especially as our neighbors and community members educate themselves about, school funding in general.
Yes, that's a great point, and I have sent folks there, and it is very well done, so thank you, Liz and Greg, for that work. It's excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, anything else with our legislation update? All right, so next up, we are going to move into our legal RFQ, that I sent out, over the weekend. Greg, graciously helped get it moving, and Liz reviewed it also. And then I have spoken with Adam about this as well, so he is kind of in the scope of everything. So moving forward, I did just want to say, we have it in front of us, which is nice, we can make our edits. After talking with Adam and hearing some of his feedback with, everybody he has talked to and worked with and different, opinions and what he is hearing, I am actually proposing for a timeline that we finish up our contract and benefits before summer. We will then have evaluations, and that leads us into July, which we will be able to get a little bit more detail, as this is also on his list for the agenda on that July 8th, and then have it up and running for posting on August 1. So this allows us to check off other boxes to get things done in a timely manner. And then this allows us to fully review this and function and get everybody on board with Adam here at full-time as the superintendent. So that is where I'm coming from after taking in everything, and hearing his thoughts on what priorities and concerns and everything that he is gathering from people as he talks to them. So I just wanted to make sure I put that forward, to feel like we can get everything done appropriately in a timely manner, and then really make sure we have enough time and all of the people on board working on this that we need to. So,
Well, can you be a little bit more specific like that? So you're suggesting in your timeline that, the distribution of this would begin?
this would go off August 1, because it would allow us to do any additional updates after that July 8th meeting with Adam, because he has it as one of his agenda items, is to talk about people. So if there's any other changes, we could wrap it up, put it out August 1, it's 4 weeks, and then we start interviews.
Okay, so walk me through this, so 8/1, and then the response deadline would be
4 weeks, yeah, both what we kind of dug up and what Adam has suggested was 4 weeks.
okay, and then the finalists.
That would be on our terms then, because we should have everything in September 1, so it's then on us how quickly we want to move forward with the rest of it.
I'm just like.
No, I hear you,
together.
but a lot of it is based on our schedules and what we
Yeah.
wanna do and how much time and how quickly and that, so that is just, after looking at everything that I know we need to do through the end of the year and to get Adam up and running, that is where I feel this, allows us to give it the right amount of time to review.
I have a technical question, Kelly.
Yeah.
And Greg, this might be more for you. So since this is a purchase service, can you, talk us through what, if any, competitive bidding requirements we have? Like, do we have to do the formal RFP sealed
No.
responses? No, okay.
It's a
Professional service, so 4 weeks, you could say 4 weeks, we could say 2 weeks, like, we're not,
Yeah.
okay, we're not.
Think of it like how you.
How we did the search firm?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe I got the same question, asked a little differently. What's involved with getting it out? So, we make a decision on July 8th. What's the next step? Post it, what does getting it out mean?
Yeah, I guess getting it out would be posting it probably on our website, and then emailing
Yeah.
any firms that you want the board to reach out to at that point.
Kelly, I think that's more than reasonable, it makes a lot of sense, time-wise, given all the things we're trying to juggle right now. Obviously, onboarding new superintendent is critical and juggling. I do have some comments though, so if I have some comments and suggestions for this, would I bring those to the July 8th meeting?
If that is where we're all kind of sitting on that, I would say yes, because then we can just do all the edits at once, Adam will also be there, and then we can roll it out. But, that depends.
So we can decide on July 8th that we just want to post it, because we're going to define this time with that.
We could,
You know
yes.
what, let's get this posted. Yeah. let's
Yes,
get this going on,
yes,
and then let's-
so that's where, yes, that's fine too.
And then really at that point,
Yes.
really set the timeline
Right,
with him.
well, right, and we also, and it also kind of depends on how
with
Right,
him in
yes.
his presence.
Yes,
actually.
but, so that is kind of just trying to juggle all that we have left on our plate through the summer. That it allows us to check off those big boxes that we've continued to work on. We have some evaluations that we have to do, and then we have to get Adam up and running. And then I feel like we can give this all of our time and energy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to kill anybody here, I'm just, I wanna go through the process, cause that's what we do. That doesn't mean we make changes, it just means we go through the process.
Right, and that's, so we've got it ready, and so that's where I'm coming from. But I just wanted to share that after talking with Adam and everything, and hearing his input on other stuff that he's heard, so.
And Kelly, you shared this with him, right?
Yes.
Or you will share?
Yes, I didn't share it physically with edits, but we're gonna wait and edit it. I will share what we have now and say, this will be discussed on July 8th, we'll add edits to that, and I will add that to our agenda item to make sure it's on there. I will, yeah.
So I might be the last one that went through this, but Adam asked to sit down with me. Has he done that with everybody? He said he was gonna meet with everybody, he hasn't.
I mean,
And I had a good, sit down session.
Good.
I'd encourage everybody to do that. In light of that, it makes sense, the way you're presenting it, to have him look at almost everything. So if you guys haven't had that time with him, it's a really good idea to sit down and have that. I just figure I'm always the last one, so. So, anyway.
So am I hearing that, so July 8th, we would make the edits on it, and then we could push it out July 9th?
Whatever, first to make better.
Right, but if there's, if there's some edits, but it's pretty,
Because we have to
pretty
fill in
general.
these blanks anyway.
Right, and those are all talking points that we were gonna do anyways.
But no later on this one.
Okay. All right, so I will share this with Adam, I will send that out, and I will let him know that we're gonna add this to our agenda on July 8th. All right, so we all good on this? All right, so then, okay, so next up is our, Mr. Markling, is going to present our ethics and sunshine law annual update. So he's gonna let us know any changes or anything that is going on that we need to be made aware of. So Mr. Markling, the floor is yours.
So what I wanted to, my understanding is in the past, you had like an update for about 15 minutes or so. And I'll go through for everyone, just a general kind of overview. And then the very narrow areas, there's only a few really major changes. So I'm gonna break it up into 3 areas. First is public records, then the open meetings, and then the Ohio ethics. For the public records, just a reminder for everyone that a public record is any kind of medium. So it can be electronic, it can be physical, it can be a video. And there really are 3 parts. One, that you have this entity, this document that exists, that it is, you hold it. So Rocky River actually holds it, and it documents the functions of the organization. And that's that third part is key, because you may have lots of documents from the county, from the city, that may not document what you do. And the next that we get into often is that we actually use it. So it has to be a document that is in actual use. So you can take personal, so one thing that comes up is that if, I'll use Liz as an example. If Liz makes a personal note, puts it in her credenza and never looks at it again, it's not a public record. Now, she actually goes back to it at some point and says, oh, I think 2 years ago I made a note. She pulls it, that's public record. Okay? Now, what is new is that the General Assembly is seeing, there's a lot of public record litigation, and they're trying to stop all this public record litigation, and there's a 3-day window now. So now, if someone has a complaint, the public record request, what they're required to do is submit the request, they would submit the request, the public record complaint to Greg. Say, Greg, this is the public record complaint I intend to file, and then we have 3 days to remedy. Which is good. I think that's a good, process. We've not had any issues with that. We've responded to folks make public records requests. If they have follow-up, we give them follow-up. And there is a new 2025 Ohio Sunshine Law Manual that's out. I know everyone has a copy of that. I encourage the community to look at that as well. It's a good resource. It's available online. So that's the kind of public records 101. The only update is this 3-day pre-filing notice. There are some other updates that don't apply to us. So those are the only updates that apply to us. Any questions?
So that first part is the definition of a public record. It's gotta meet all 3
Correct.
of those criteria, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next is on the Open Meetings Act. So generally speaking, we're a public body. All of our meetings need to be open to the public. That's a committee meeting, any prearranged discussion of public business with a majority of board members is a meeting, or if we've delegated a committee, that needs to be done as well. And those concepts of openness, so it's open to folks, notice, when we give notice of a regular meeting, or a special meeting rather, board members get 48 hours notice of a special meeting. Supposed to give at least 24 hours notice. If there's an emergency, the emergency notice can go out depending on the emergency. Then for executive sessions, I know that we've got an example here today. So executive sessions, there are some areas where you can go into executive session. The reason why you see, I don't know how many there are today, but 23 executive sessions, is that when you look at the law, it's singular. So you can go in to discuss the employment of a public official. It doesn't say officials. So if you're gonna talk about the compensation of 20 people, you need to go in 20 consecutive executive sessions. It's kind of laborious, but that is the way that the statute reads. There are other reasons that board members are aware of to go in executive session, but that is why, for the community, when they see those reasons listed on our executive session resolutions, is to try to be as specific as we can to comply with the law. Now, there really is not any new change in open meetings, with the exception that you may have heard about this new law that allows for virtual meetings, which is great, except it doesn't apply to you. So virtual meetings don't apply to you because 1, you get paid for meetings, and 2, you're elected. Now, it could apply though for your designees. So an example would be, you're going to do a student expulsion appeal. That technically, your designee should be noticing these meetings, having these, and so when I do them for clients, I would be able to have a virtual meeting. Not everyone would need to be there because I'm not an elected official. So that is an area where you can still do these kinds of meetings, but 99% of what you do, virtual meetings not gonna apply. Any questions? Okay. The next is on Ohio ethics laws. Again, the law is not, well, same thing with the Open Meetings Act. We've got the Ohio Sunshine Law Manual that's come out. I will say that the new Ohio Sunshine Law Manual is not as robust as the prior Ohio Sunshine Law Manual. You'll notice when you look at the new Ohio Sunshine Law Manual that the font's bigger and there's less citation. So, but it's all the same. It isn't as robust with the citation that's I guess I would also say Ohio public records laws, there's a new case on public records every single day. Open meetings, not so much. So the area of public records, if it's case law, is pretty, vibrant, which I think is why the General Assembly is trying to stop all of this litigation with this 3-day notice. Okay, Ohio ethics laws. Again, no major change, well, no changes at all, to Ohio ethics laws. What I've done is I tried to go through, and I've given you, the Ohio Ethics Law 101, the ethics toolkit for public and school employees. That's a good resource, and I just want to kind of highlight some things that board members, I know you all know, so I know that part of this is kind of to share with the community and the greater good, things that are going on, but conflicts of interest, no school board member, no public official, no employee can have an interest in any contract with the board. So if you're asking yourself, I wonder if this is a conflict of interest, it probably is. And I don't give legal advice on ethics. There's one entity that will give you legal advice that matters on ethics, and that's the Ohio Ethics Commission. So if you have questions on, I certainly can tell you whether things look fishy. And if you really want to know whether it's an ethics issue, then the Ohio Ethics Commission is the entity that contact, and will give free advice and guidance.
So Matt, we recuse ourselves from votes when our employer is contracting or trying to do something with Rocky River that involves an exchange, a transaction. Is that what we should be doing?
Yes, now I will,
Like I teach at Tri-C, and we talked about an arrangement with Tri-C. Should I be recusing myself from something like that?
yes, I would do it, the way I would do it is a little differently, because I'm kind of a stickler for this, but that's a good point, it's a good example. So when you see, Mr. Corrigan, refrains from voting on these issues, then that's because you cannot be involved in any discussions whatsoever. So technically, it's that when you see the resolution that causes a conflict, you don't comment on it, you don't talk to anybody about it, you have no impact, and that's I think that's kind of what's going on. So if there's anything that involves you, then you just can't do it. Now, the nuance is, you don't technically abstain. You vote present, but you don't vote.
Okay.
None of this is all kind of like so when you abstain, it actually counts as a vote, because you are voting, and it may count, depending on how the vote goes, it may count in the favor of the motion. So what you want to do is you just want to vote present. It's not doing abstaining, recusing. We understand at the end of the day, the intent is to not be involved in it. But you should really just vote present. And then if there were 5 board members here, the vote would go, if it was passed, it would go like 4-0-0. There'd be no abstention. Okay, that's a good question. Also, if you are, well, we'll get down to this next thing. So gifts. So here's the thing with the gifts. The gifts are anything of substantial value. What does that mean? I know there's a lot of talk about this belief that's $75. Substantial value is, if I buy Greg a coffee, and Greg really loves coffee, if it's a substantial thing to him, then Greg should just buy his own coffee. Don't take me buying him coffee. So overall, there are a lot of things you can do. So in theory, you can go and you can have somebody buy you coffee. Just buy your own coffee. If you just pay your own way, you'll never have a problem. If you're worrying about, can you have someone pay this for you? Again, you kind of answered the question. So don't accept gifts. I guess is the easiest thing to say on that. Public contracts, we discussed, you can't have, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. Because as board members, you can't, even if you have, none of your spouses can't contract with the board. I'm not talking about teachers or employees, I'm talking about like a vendor. So if your spouse was a vendor, they can't be contracting with the board. If your spouse was employed with the board as an employee, then that's, Mr. Corrigan, you would be abstaining from those kinds of.
Yeah.
And, well, voting present, not even here. Any questions about that? I think you guys understand that. Where it gets tricky sometimes is, you can't, and I know you know this, so this is not just a reminder for the community that may ask, well, why are board members not actively involved in support organizations and those kinds of things? As a board member, you can't be a member, you can't be an officer on a support organization. So you couldn't be the boosters president. You couldn't be the PTA, PTO president. You could be a member of those organizations, but you can't be an officer.
Rotary.
Rotary is not a support organization for the school, but if it was, then you couldn't be an officer on the Rotary.
But they give scholarships to their students.
They're not so a support organization is an organization that their sole mission with the IRS is to support us.
Okay, all right, that's fair, that's a good way to say it.
Any other questions on this? Now, where it gets, the last thing is post-employment and dual services. This issue is, sometimes, we don't have this situation, but if we had a shared superintendent or a shared treasurer with another district, there are issues to make sure that, like, who's the master and who's the ultimate decision maker to not have conflicts. We don't have that kind of situation, and we don't do shared employees with other districts as far as I know. And for post-employment, there's a general concept of a revolving door, and the idea is you can go work for, Liz could go get her law degree and come work for my law firm. But if she had any involvement in soliciting you prior to her leaving, then my law firm can't do any work with you. Okay, so she can, in no way can her, being involved as an employee of Rocky River cause anyone to think that she's bringing business to me. This is a hypothetical example. So if any of you were to not be on the board anymore, there's some laws and some procedures that you wouldn't the next day start working for a vendor to try to restrict that kind of stuff. But all that's kind of stuff you take on a case-by-case basis. So ethics, the general is, if it sounds bad, it probably is. If you ask yourself, should I be doing this, and you say no, then don't do it. If you have questions about it, the Ohio Ethics Commission will give you legal advice for free, and for things that are in the future. And that's it. Those are the kind of the summary. I know you wanted to, we have spoken a lot about these issues. There really is nothing new. I think that this board is very well versed on the public records, open meetings, and ethics laws, and the changes that have taken place for sunshine laws are not that exciting for us. It'd be different if we were in police and those kinds of things, but not for us.
By the way, thank you for that, the public records knowledge.
No, you guys do a great job. You do a great job. I will say that one of the things I know comes up from the community members sometimes is there's a difference between information and public records. So the request for information is not a request for public records. And I know that we try to balance, I know Greg tries to balance his responses by saying, we don't have that document, we don't create that document, and giving information is not a public record. So we try to balance the difference between a public record request and maybe answering a question that they may ask Greg when Greg's buying his own coffee, at a coffee shop. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, that definition for public records, and I know sometimes this is hard for people to understand, but it's a statutory definition.
Correct.
And so we have to follow it. We have to follow it. That's a statutory definition. It's got 3 criteria. We're not trying to be difficult or make life hard for people, but statutory legal definition, and that's how we have to comply.
So in fact, yes, that is correct. There is another statutory provision, which is interesting, that actually says that we are not supposed to be creating records. So on the one hand, we're supposed to be disclosing public records. On the other hand, we're not supposed to be creating records that need not be public records. So when you balance those two, that's why the position is we follow the public records laws 100% as written, no more, no less, because we get into a problem about if we provide more, technically we're violating the law because we shouldn't be doing that anyways. And I haven't gone through all the details of the redactions and all the things that would be redacted. But again, we have not had any issues with those. I think the people who have been making public records requests have been appreciative of the transparency, the redactions. I know that, for the open meetings, I brought up the issue of executive sessions. I know that you see 23 executive sessions. I think maybe it's more exciting than it really is, but it's just to try to make sure that we're covering our bases. So if you see that, that means that the board's going to be considering 23 different people.
And you also mentioned with redactions, we also are subject to very stringent student privacy laws. So there are, again, laws that require us to redact certain kinds of information.
Correct. Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Merkin.
thank you.
All right, we are going to be moving into executive session.